Hey everybody, and welcome to the People Analytics channel. And today we have a very fun topic, and it's something that anyone in any profession will care about, and that is how do you optimize your resume so you get found by recruiters. Now there's a multi-step process to this. Initially, it's the pre-screen evaluation where your resume is actually interfacing not with a human being, but with a machine. And I'm going to actually walk you through the methodology you can use so that the AI algorithm not only identifies you, but ranks you higher versus other candidates. And then the next step is the interview process itself. You want to make sure that your CV has accomplishments that help you pass not only the competency-based interview section, but also the behavioral questions and context and so forth. But the idea is that you want to have a very targeted methodology that compares not only the job descriptions in the market, so you understand what skills, industry coverage, and experience you need, but also you're going to use statistical analysis for LinkedIn, looking at the incumbent profiles for the companies you're targeting, and make sure you have those skills as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, so please hit like and subscribe, and let's start learning. I like to start all my videos with my favorite quote by Albert Einstein, and he said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." And even though we're discussing resume optimization and how for you to interact with an artificial intelligence platform, comparing your skills, industry coverage, and experience to that of a success profile, you'd be surprised that even machines appreciate simplicity. So as you structure your resume, instead of trying to make it overly complex, use too many numbers and so forth, what you want to do is has a systematic methodology that targets specific industries, targets your top 5 competitors, suppliers, and buyers, and then links those skills that are important from the job description perspective as well as what you find on incumbent profiles on LinkedIn. But keep it simple. Ultimately, you want to be found by the recruiter, and then it's going to be your personality and your leadership philosophy that will impress people. But the resume itself should be simple. Okay, let's get started. Now this video helps you with 2 specific steps. The first is the pre-screen stage, where you're actually interfacing with an artificial intelligence platform that's comparing your skills and experience versus the success profile of the position, as well as if a recruiter is scanning through LinkedIn and they do their initial search and whether or not you ping higher or more favorably against other candidates. And then the second stage is the interview stage, whether it's your initial conversation with the executive recruiter or the first and second round conversations where you have competency-based questions as well as behavioral-based questions, and you want to make sure that you can articulate those through clear accomplishments on your CV. The biggest challenge people have is in the AI platform, and what you have to understand is that it's using an algorithm to rank you compared to other CVs. And there's a way to optimize your resume to ensure that the platform actually finds you and ranks you high. And that's what we're going to discuss as we go through this systematic process of how to be found by a recruiter. In terms of resume strength components, remember this is what the AI platform tool uses when it's comparing the success profile against your LinkedIn profile or your CV. So it's not that you're not a great person with individual traits that a company would value. It's that these 5 steps is really what the AI tool is looking for. The first is your industry coverage. You want to look at primary and secondary industries that you match. The second is your job titles, your progression, the geographies you've worked for, and your total years of experience. From there, you get into branded firms. So they're going to look at what are those Fortune 500 and multinationals they care about, what are branded schools and professional societies. And then once you have that, you move into the final 2 steps where you're linking position skills to the job description, and you can use an external bundling app like Burning Glass to help you. And then also you're linking skills to incumbents, and that's done by using R and Python to examine LinkedIn profiles to tell you what you have versus incumbents in the job. Step 1 is research, and you really want to be a heat-seeking missile when it comes to your CV and the industries that you're targeting. Instead of focusing on any job that you may be qualified for, a great approach is to look at the top 5 competitors, suppliers, and buyers for the industries that you would like to work in. And you want to identify a primary industry as well as a secondary. So if your primary target is oil and gas and mining, your secondary industry may be industrials as well as engineering, for example. Once you've identified those primary and secondary industries, then you look at what are the branded companies that you would like to work for. And that goes into your top 5 competitors the suppliers of those competitors, and the buyers of those competitors. Once you have those top 15 firms, it's going to allow you to progress to the AI optimization where you're looking at job descriptions. You're also looking at the incumbent LinkedIn profiles. But the key is to target your search, not focus on just the overall jobs within your domain. So step 2 is where all the magic happens, and essentially what you're trying to do is identify what skills, industry experience, and branded connections the recruiter cares about, and that's what's tied to the success profile that the AI platform is looking for. So you engage in 2 separate things. First, you want to use an external bundler, and Burning Glass is a great tool that'll pull in all the job descriptions for your domain. That'll tell you exactly what skills, experience, and industry coverage you need in order for the AI tool to find you. Then separately, you want to look at LinkedIn and look at all the incumbent profiles of positions you're targeting, and you basically use R or Python to triangulate what the job description is saying versus what the LinkedIn incumbent profiles are saying, and that'll tell you exactly what skills, industry, and experience levels you need in order to be found by the recruiter. Once you have that in place, you look at what skills you've actually accomplished and you try to optimize your resume to match what they're looking for. Moving into your gap analysis, now there will be times as you progress through this AI optimization that you simply don't have the skills or experiences that recruiters are looking for. And what you can do is really partition this into a short and long-term strategy. If you have a short-term gap where you're just trying to create a branded connection to a company, for example, you've worked in the industry, you have the skills and experience that are needed, but you haven't actually connected with a particular company that a recruiter is looking for, you can create a branded connection by participating in an industry conference, doing a co-sponsored project by that company, and so forth. However, if there's a long-term gap, like you simply haven't worked in the industry, then you actually need to take meaningful steps to enter that industry, either through a degree connection or simply taking maybe a lower job in order to make that connection. But if it's short-term, any kind of link is going to be found by the AI tool, and that's what you should establish. Step 4 is about the candidate story. So the idea is you've optimized your resume, you've used AI SEO to be found by recruiters. Now as you progress through the interview stage, whether it's round 1 or round 2, you actually want your resume to help you as part of the discussion process. So remember, when you do round 1 interviews, typically most of the participants in that interview are going to use competency-based interview questions, and you want to have easily recognizable achievements that can highlight those competencies as you progress through the interview. When you move into round 2, most of the time the interview switches from being a competency-based question to a behavioral-based. They want to understand your leadership qualities and how you would approach context. You want to have CV accomplishments listed on there that are behavioral as well, so you can easily discuss those. So as you list accomplishments, focus on competency-based questions as well as behavioral. And then you create branded online content. Now this step is actually very important. You've done all the work to optimize your resume, to make sure that the AI filter and that recruiters will be able to find you, whether it's on LinkedIn or through their internal contacts. Now it's about how you launch your resume. And one of the biggest mistakes people do is even if they have a great branded content, they end up applying to all these jobs that are posted online. Some of these positions may not actually be actively recruited, and then you're stuck in these resume databases and you're actually not making progress. And what it does is it actually dilutes the quality of your resume. So you want to use a sequential process when determining how to launch your resume. First, you look at your internal connections and see if they can do an introduction for you. Then you move into industry recruiters, and only as a last step do you apply directly online through these Talio SuccessFactors kind of AI applications. The key is you want to protect the credibility of your resume by not spraying it all over the internet. Focus on your targeted search and go through these steps. And now let's go through an example. So we have Neo, our data scientist, and he wants to be found by a recruiter. His first step is he identifies his primary and secondary industries. In this case, it's the oil and gas and mining is his primary, and secondary would be industrial and engineering. From that, he does the AI optimization, looking at his job title, his experience, industry coverage, and skills. And he uses an external bundler, such as Burning Glass, for example, to pull in all the job descriptions and identify the key experiences and skills that he needs. And then he looks at the incumbent profiles on LinkedIn to kind of cross-reference and triangulate what are the skills recruiters care about. Once you do that, you do your gap analysis and you identify what are the short-term and long-term gaps on your resume. From a short-term perspective, you can address those through certifications or through some kind of branded connection like a professional society. Long-term gaps, you probably need to enroll in either a degree or really try to find a way to enter the company in a meaningful way. Now, once you move into your candidate story, the whole focus of this is making sure that you understand you want to anticipate the questions that you're going to see. So first round interviews, you're going to have competency-based questions, and that should be easily referenced on your CV. Second round interviews, you'll have behavioral questions, and you want to have examples of that on your CV. Once you choose to launch your resume, you go in a sequential order. You start with your personal contacts, then industry recruiters, and only as a last step do you actually apply online using the AI optimization tool. And that's it. What a fun conversation. Hopefully these tips help you when trying to be found by a recruiter. And please join me next week. We're going to continue our top 10 series focusing on the attrition at risk indicator. So if you haven't done so already, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.